I gave this family 5 years of my life. Every minute, every dollar, every drop of love. I became a father to two beautiful kids, built a perfect home, and created the life they could only dream of. But you know what I got in return? A betrayal that destroyed not just my family, but everything I believed in. Now they're begging me to come back. But it's too late. This is the story of how I learned the brutal truth. Sometimes the ones we love the most use that love as a weapon against us. And trust me, you won't believe how deep this betrayal goes. They say life's biggest lessons come when you least expect them. I've spent my career healing animals, but no veterinary school prepared me for the wounds I'd receive from the people I trusted most. My name is Michael Anderson, and this is my story of how I learned that sometimes the deepest scars aren't the ones you can see. I first met Olivia at my veterinary clinic in Boston's Back Bay neighborhood. She rushed in one rainy Tuesday morning with a golden retriever puppy wrapped in her jacket. He just collapsed during our morning walk, she explained, worry etched across her face. The puppy had simply overexerted himself. Nothing serious, but that morning changed my life forever. Olivia turned out to be a third-grade teacher at a local elementary school. A widow raising two kids after losing her husband in a car accident 2 years prior. Her daughter Emma was 8, a bright kid who inherited her mother's compassion for others. Her son Lucas, 6, was quieter, but had this amazing ability to connect with animals. At 34, I had built a solid life for myself. My veterinary practice was thriving. I had a comfortable condo in Beacon Hill and enough savings to feel secure. But watching Olivia with her kids that first day when they came to pick up their puppy Max, I realized something had been missing. The way you were with Max, she said as I explained the puppy's care instructions. It's rare to see someone so passionate about their work. Her smile was genuine, lighting up her entire face. Our relationship developed naturally. Our first real date wasn't at some fancy restaurant. Instead, I helped her take Max to puppy training classes. The kids came along, and seeing Lucas's face light up when Max finally mastered sit was better than any candlelit dinner. Most men wouldn't sign up for instant fatherhood, Olivia mentioned one evening as we watched the kids and Max play in the park. The autumn leaves were falling around us, creating a perfect New England scene. Most men don't know what they're missing, I replied, meaning every word. Over the next year, we created our own little family. Emma would visit the clinic after school, fascinated by the animals and always ready to help. Lucas, who had been practically mute when I first met him, started opening up, especially when helping me with the gentler pets at the clinic. I moved in with them after a year. We found a beautiful house in Newton, with a big yard for Max and good schools nearby. I threw myself into family life completely. Parent-teacher conferences, slightly awkward since Olivia taught at the same school, science fairs, soccer games. I was there for everything. The kids started calling me Dad, naturally, no pressure. The first time Emma called me Dad during a Saturday morning pancake breakfast, I had to pretend I had something in my eye. Our wedding was in the backyard that spring. Emma insisted on being the flower girl, while Lucas proudly walked with Max, who carried the rings on a special collar. Olivia looked beautiful in her simple white dress, and when she said "I do," I felt like the luckiest man alive. I really thought I had found my happy ending. My practice was doing well, the kids were thriving, and Olivia seemed content. What I didn't know then was that you can dedicate your life to healing others, but sometimes the deepest wounds come from the ones closest to your heart. The first 3 years of our marriage were like something out of a Hallmark movie. My veterinary practice flourished. I even expanded to a larger clinic, hiring 2 more vets to handle the growing client base. Olivia got Teacher of the Year at her school, and the kids were thriving. Emma joined the school's science club, often bringing her projects to the clinic for expert consultation. Lucas, once so shy, started volunteering at the local animal shelter with me on weekends. "You've changed him," Olivia said one evening, watching Lucas gently explain to a younger kid at the shelter how to approach scared cats. "He used to be so withdrawn after his father died. Now look at him." I remember feeling on top of the world. Every morning, I'd wake up early to make breakfast. Pancakes shaped like animals were a family favorite. Emma would help flip them while Lucas set the table, and Olivia would grade papers at the kitchen counter, all of us sharing plans for the day. Max, our golden retriever, had grown into a gentle giant who followed the kids everywhere. He'd wait by the door every afternoon when they came home from school and sleep between their rooms at night. That dog was like a furry guardian angel. We had our routines. Tuesday nights were family game nights. No phones, no TV, just us playing board games and sharing stories. Weekends often meant trips to the shelter or hiking in the nearby state park. I'd pack lunches, and we'd spend hours exploring trails, the kids collecting leaves and rocks while Max bounded ahead. The clinic became a second home for the kids. Emma set up a study corner in my office, claiming the lighting was perfect for homework. Lucas would help with the easier tasks, feeding the boarding pets, organizing supplies, learning the names of every animal that came through our doors. You know, one of my regular clients said, watching Lucas comfort her nervous cat, "That boy of yours has a real gift." I felt my chest swell with pride. He was mine, maybe not by blood, but by something deeper. Even the tough moments felt manageable. When Emma had her first panic attack before a big test, I stayed up all night with her, teaching her breathing techniques I used with anxious animals. When Lucas struggled with bullies at school, we enrolled him in karate classes, watching his confidence grow with each new belt. Every success, every milestone, every small victory, we celebrated them all. Family dinners were filled with laughter and plans for the future. Olivia and I talked about maybe opening a small animal sanctuary someday, combining our love for teaching and animal care. But looking back now, I realize that's the thing about perfect moments. They're fragile. Like holding a butterfly. Squeeze too tight and you crush it. Hold too loose and it flies away. Our perfect life was about to change, and I never saw it coming. They say you never see the storm coming until it's right on top of you. Looking back, the signs were there, hiding in plain sight like a snake in the grass. It started small, so small I almost missed it. Emma turned 14 that spring, and it was like someone flipped a switch overnight. Our science-loving girl who used to spend hours at the clinic suddenly had better things to do. She started rolling her eyes at my animal facts, which used to fascinate her. "Dad, you're so lame," became her new favorite phrase. I try not to let it get to me. Teenagers, right? Every parent goes through this. But then Lucas, now 12, started following his sister's lead. He stopped coming to the shelter on weekends, claiming he was too old for that baby stuff. That one hit me like a ton of bricks. The shelter work had been our special thing. Even Max seemed to sense the change. The kids stopped walking him, leaving it all to me. "I've got homework," they'd say, but their social media accounts told a different story. I was starting to feel like the odd man out in my own family. One evening, I overheard Emma talking to her friends on the phone. "He's not even my real dad," she said, laughing. "He just thinks he is because he married Mom." I stood there in the hallway, feeling like someone had knocked the wind out of me. I brought it up with Olivia that night. "It's just a phase," she said, barely looking up from her lesson plans. "Don't make a mountain out of a molehill." But something in her tone felt off, like she was reading from a script rather than speaking from the heart. The final straw came during a parent-teacher conference at their school. I was there because Olivia had a late meeting. Emma's math teacher mentioned some missing assignments, and I promised to talk to her about it. "With all due respect, Mr. Anderson," Emma said that evening, her voice dripping with attitude, "you're not my father. You can't tell me what to do." I looked to Olivia, waiting for her to step in, to say something, anything. But she just sat there, suddenly very interested in her phone. The silence spoke volumes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about how things had changed. The kids who used to run to hug me now barely acknowledged my existence. The family dinners that were once filled with laughter had become silent affairs punctuated by the sound of phones buzzing. Even at the clinic, which had always been my safe haven, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping away. One of my regular clients brought in their cat and asked about Lucas. "Haven't seen him here in ages," they said. "He used to be such a natural with the animals." "He's been busy," I replied, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. I was losing them, and the worst part was I didn't know why. I'd given them everything, my time, my love, my whole heart. But apparently, that wasn't enough. Blood, as they say, is thicker than water, and I was starting to feel like water that was slowly evaporating. The tension in our house was thick enough to cut with a scalpel. Every conversation felt like defusing a bomb. One wrong word, and everything would explode. I found myself tiptoeing around my own home, second-guessing every interaction with the kids. The breaking point came during Emma's science fair. She'd always handled her project solo before, proud to show me her work. This time, she was struggling with an experiment about animal behavior, right up my alley. But when I offered to help, you'd think I'd suggested canceling Christmas. "I don't need your help," she snapped. "Just because you work with animals doesn't make you an expert on everything." I caught Olivia smirking at this comment, which felt like a knife to the gut. Later that night, I confronted her about it. "You could have backed me up there," I said. She gave me this look that could freeze hell over. "They're my kids, Michael. Maybe you should stay in your lane." "Stay in my lane? After 5 years of being their father?" The words hit me like a physical blow. The next day at the clinic, I couldn't focus. Almost prescribed the wrong medication to Mrs. Johnson's cat. Caught myself just in time. My assistant, Jenny, noticed something was off. "Everything okay at home, Doc?" she asked. "You're not your usual self." I brushed it off, but she wasn't wrong. I was walking around with a dark cloud over my head, waiting for the next storm to hit. It didn't take long. That weekend, Lucas had a meltdown when I asked him to help clean up after Max. The dog had dragged mud through the house. Normally the kind of thing Lucas would handle without being asked. "He's your dog," Lucas shouted. "You wanted him. You deal with it." "Our dog," I corrected him. "He's our family dog." "Yeah? Well, maybe you're not really family either." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at Olivia, who was sitting at the kitchen counter grading papers. She didn't even look up. That night, I found myself sleeping in the guest room, claiming I had an early surgery in the morning. The truth? I couldn't bear to lie next to someone who could watch our family fall apart and do nothing. The next morning, I overheard Emma and Lucas talking in the kitchen. "Mom says we don't have to listen to him," Emma was saying. "He's not our real dad anyway." My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped my coffee mug. The betrayal wasn't just coming from the kids. It was being orchestrated. And the conductor? The woman I thought was my partner in this whole parenting journey. They say everyone has a breaking point. Mine came on a quiet Sunday morning, the kind of morning that used to be filled with pancake breakfasts and family plans. Now it was just another day of strained silence and avoided eye contact. I was in my home office, catching up on patient files, when I heard the commotion downstairs. Max was barking, not his usual playful bark, but something more urgent. I found him scratching at the back door, clearly distressed. The dog door was locked, and no one had taken him out all morning. This had become the new normal. Everyone ignoring his needs, leaving it all to me. But this time was different. When I opened the door, Max bolted straight to the bushes where he'd been getting sick. "Why didn't anyone let him out?" I asked, walking back into the kitchen where Emma and Lucas were glued to their phones. "He's been asking for hours." "Not my problem," Emma muttered, not even looking up. "He's our family dog," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We all agreed to take care of him." "No," Lucas cut in, finally looking up. "You forced him on us, just like you forced yourself into our family." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Is that really how you feel? After all these years?" "Mom says we don't have to pretend anymore," Emma added, with a coldness I'd never heard before. That's when Olivia walked in. Instead of addressing the situation, she started making coffee like nothing was wrong. The casual dismissal of everything I'd done for this family finally broke something inside me. "We need to talk," I said to her. "Now." In my office, I confronted her directly. "Have you been telling the kids they don't have to respect me?" She stirred her coffee slowly, like she had all the time in the world. "I've been telling them to be honest about their feelings. They never asked for a replacement father." "Replacement? Is that what you think I've been trying to do? Haven't you? Playing dad, trying to make them forget their real father." The accusation hit hard. Every bedtime story, every school event, every moment I'd cherished, she'd seen it all as some kind of manipulation. "I never try to replace anyone," I said quietly. "I just love them." I thought that was enough. "Well, it wasn't," she replied, standing up. "And it never will be." That evening, I made one last attempt to reach out to the kids. I found them in the living room and tried to talk about what was happening. Their response made everything crystal clear. "Just leave us alone," Emma said. "You're not our father. You never were." Lucas didn't even bother to speak, just walked out of the room. And Olivia? She stood in the doorway with a small, satisfied smile, like she'd been waiting for this moment all along. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my office until dawn, Max curled up at my feet, thinking about everything that had led to this point. The framed photos on my desk seemed to mock me now, smiling faces that masked years of deception. The next morning, I called Jenny at the clinic and asked her to handle my appointments. Then I started documenting everything: 5 years of financial records, investments in the house, kids' education, extracurricular activities. The paper trail of misplaced trust. My lawyer, Tom, listened without judgment as I explained the situation. "What do you want to do?" he asked simply. "I want out," I said, "but I want to do it right." Over the next few days, I moved methodically. I separated our finances, documented my practice's growth during the marriage, and gathered evidence of my contributions to the family. Not out of spite, but self-preservation. At home, I maintained my routine but stopped engaging. When Emma made remarks about me not being her real father, I simply nodded. When Lucas ignored my presence, I focused on my food. Their words lost power with each passing day. Olivia noticed the change. She started watching me carefully, trying to figure out my game. One evening, she tried to start a fight about clinic expenses. "It's for the practice," I said calmly, "which is my separate property." "Nothing's separate in a marriage," she snapped. "Interesting perspective, considering how you've been handling the family situation." The kids got nervous when their usual tactics stopped working. When Emma needed help with her science project, I politely declined. "But you always help me," she protested. "You made it clear you don't want me involved," I reminded her. "I'm respecting your choice." I focused on my practice instead. I took on more surgeries, expanded our emergency care, and started planning that animal sanctuary I'd always dreamed about. My passion for veterinary medicine had always been real, even if my family life wasn't. I made arrangements for Max. Jenny agreed to take him temporarily until I got settled. The look of appreciation in that dog's eyes held more truth than I'd seen from my family in months. The breaking point came when I overheard them planning to ask for new cars, counting on my guilt to make it happen. They had no idea I'd already made my decision. That weekend, I packed essentials and secured important documents in a safety deposit box. I'd found a place near the clinic. Everything was ready. It wasn't running away. It was walking away with purpose. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is admit what you thought was real was just an illusion, and have the courage to start over. The first week after I left was like waking up from a long nightmare. I threw myself into work at the clinic, taking extra surgeries in emergency cases. Jenny had set up a small bed in the break room, but I rarely used it. Staying busy kept the pain at bay. Max adjusted well to his temporary home with Jenny. She sent me photos of him playing with her kids, his tail wagging again. It was good to see him happy, free from the tension that had filled our house. The messages started 3 days after I left. First from Emma, "Where are the car keys? I'm going to be late for school." Then from Lucas, "Mom says you need to deposit money for my field trip." I didn't respond to either. Olivia's messages were a mix of anger and manipulation. "You're being childish," she wrote. "The kids need you. You can't just walk away from your responsibilities." My lawyer had advised me to keep all communication in writing. When I finally responded, it was simple and clear. All communication should go through our attorneys. That's when things got interesting. The joint credit cards stopped working. I'd already canceled them. The automatic payments for the kids' activities bounced. I'd removed myself from those accounts. The comfortable lifestyle they'd taken for granted suddenly wasn't so comfortable anymore. One evening, after a particularly difficult surgery on a rescue dog, I found Olivia waiting in my office at the clinic. "You can't do this to us," she said, her voice shaking. "The kids have activities, expenses. They're used to a certain lifestyle." "The lifestyle I provided," I replied calmly, while being treated like an outsider in my own home. "We can work this out," she tried. "The kids miss you." "Miss my wallet, you mean?" She changed tactics then, threatening to ruin my reputation, to tell everyone I'd abandoned them. I simply played her the recording of her admitting I was never really part of the family. My lawyer had suggested keeping evidence. Turned out to be good advice. The kids' school called for a parent-teacher conference. Emma's grades were slipping, and Lucas had started acting out. I declined to attend, directing them to contact their mother. "I'm respecting their wishes to not have me involved in their lives," I explained. Some of my clients asked about the kids, remembering how they used to help at the clinic. They decided to pursue other interests. was all I said. No need to air dirty laundry. I focused on building my new life. The animal sanctuary plans were moving forward. I found a small house with a big yard, perfect for fostering rescue animals. Jenny and the clinic staff became my support system, showing me what real loyalty looked like. Then came the social media posts. Emma and Lucas painting me as the villain, claiming I'd abandoned them. Their friends' parents, who'd once praised me at school events, now shared sympathetic comments. The narrative was that I'd walked out on my family. The truth? I walked away from people who'd been using me all along. The final attempt came through mutual friends. They're struggling without you, they said. Maybe if you just helped out until they adjust. But I knew better now. You can't help people who see you as nothing more than a resource to be used. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself and for them, is to walk away and let them face the consequences of their choices. A month had passed since I left. The animal sanctuary project was moving forward, and I just hired 2 new vets to help with the expanding clinic. Life was finding a new rhythm. Then Emma showed up at the clinic one afternoon. She looked different. No designer clothes, no latest iPhone in hand. Jenny spotted her first and came to warn me. She's been waiting for an hour, Jenny said. Should I ask her to leave? I found Emma in the waiting room, petting a client's cat. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to help me with the animals. But that little girl was gone. I need money for college applications, she said without preamble. Mom says you froze all the accounts. Your college fund is still intact, I replied. It's in a trust. Always has been. Her face showed surprise, then calculation. Lucas needs new soccer gear too. No, the trust is for education only. Everything else is your mother's responsibility now. She tried a different approach, tears welling up. Don't you care about us anymore? We're your family. No, Emma. You made it very clear I wasn't family. You can't have it both ways. The next day, Lucas tried his luck. He showed up during my lunch break, looking uncomfortable in the waiting room full of animals he used to love. Mom's struggling, he said. She had to get a second job. We had to move to a smaller house. That must be difficult, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. You could help, he suggested. Things could go back to normal. Normal? You mean where I provide everything while being treated like an outsider? That's not normal, Lucas. That's exploitation. Olivia's attempt came through her lawyer. She wanted to negotiate, offered to let me come back if I agreed to certain financial terms. My lawyer laughed when he showed me the proposal. She still doesn't get it, he said. She thinks this is about money. The lowest point came when they tried to use Max against me. Jenny called one evening, panicked. Lucas had shown up at her house, claiming I'd sent him to get the dog. He got angry when I refused, she said. Started saying the dog was technically their family pet. I had to file a police report to protect Max. The officer who took the statement looked sympathetic. Family disputes are the worst, he said. Everyone thinks they're right. Their next move was a social media campaign. Emma and Lucas started posting old family photos, adding captions about missing their dad and hoping I'd come to my senses. Their friends and relatives shared and commented, painting me as the villain. Olivia joined in, sharing tearful posts about single motherhood and the struggles of raising teenagers alone. She conveniently forgot to mention how she'd orchestrated the whole situation. My response? Radio silence. I let my actions speak instead. The animal sanctuary's opening made local news. Photos showed me working with rescue animals, helping the community. I didn't need to defend myself. Success was the best revenge. Then came the final attempt. Emma and Lucas showed up at the clinic together, looking defeated. We're sorry, Emma said. We were wrong. Can't things go back to how they were? I looked at them, really looked at them. They weren't sorry for hurting me. They were sorry their comfortable life had changed. There's a big difference. Things can never go back, I said quietly. But maybe this is the lesson you needed to learn. 6 months had passed since I left. The animal sanctuary was thriving, becoming a safe haven for abandoned and abused animals. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd found my purpose helping creatures who'd been betrayed by those who should have loved them. Jenny had permanently adopted Max, and I visited him regularly. He was happy there, surrounded by kids who genuinely loved him. Sometimes the best family isn't the one you try to build, but the one that builds itself around you. The clinic had expanded, now employing 4 veterinarians and offering 24-hour emergency services. My name was becoming known in the animal welfare community, and we'd recently been featured in a local magazine for our work with rescue organizations. One quiet Sunday afternoon, while I was treating a rescued pit bull, Olivia showed up unannounced. She looked different. The polished exterior was gone, replaced by something more real, more worn. "The kids are struggling," she said, watching me work. "Emma's grades have dropped so much she might not get into college. Lucas is angry all the time." "That's unfortunate," I replied, focusing on the dog's injured paw. "Have you considered family counseling?" "We need you," she said quietly. "I need you." I finally looked at her. "No, you need what I provided. There's a difference." She tried a new angle. "Remember when we first met? When you helped build this family?" "I remember everything," I said, "including how easily you all threw it away." The divorce was nearly finalized. My lawyer had ensured the kids' college funds were secure, but separate from any other assets. They would have the opportunity for education, but anything beyond that would depend on their own efforts. Emma had started sending weekly emails, each one a carefully crafted mix of guilt and nostalgia. "Remember when you taught me about animal behavior? No one at school explains things like you did." Lucas took a different approach, showing up at the sanctuary during volunteer hours. "I miss helping with the animals," he said. But when I suggested he start with cleaning kennels, like any other volunteer, he quickly lost interest. Their social media campaign had backfired. The community had watched me build the sanctuary, provide emergency veterinary care for low-income families, and mentor young people interested in animal welfare. Actions speak louder than words. My new life was different, but better. No more walking on eggshells, no more trying to buy love with material things. I'd found genuine connections with people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide. The final message came from Emma's school counselor. They were worried about her future, hoping I might reconsider mime abandonment. "Mr. Anderson," the counselor said, "she really needs a father figure in her life." "She had one," I replied. "She and her mother decided I wasn't good enough for the role. I'm simply honoring their decision." Sometimes the hardest part of moving forward is accepting that you can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. You can only show them that actions have consequences and hope they learn from the experience. 1 year later, I stood at the grand opening of my second animal sanctuary. Local news cameras captured the moment as I cut the ribbon, surrounded by my staff and volunteers. The first sanctuary had been so successful that expanding was the natural next step. Jenny stood beside me, Max wagging his tail at her side. She'd become more than just an employee. She was family, the kind of family that forms through genuine care and mutual respect. Her kids had made Max the happiest dog in Boston, giving him the love he'd always deserved. The clinic had evolved into something I'd never imagined. We now had 6 full-time veterinarians and a state-of-the-art emergency care unit. More importantly, we'd established a program providing veterinary care for low-income families, ensuring no pet went without medical attention due to financial constraints. Emma and Lucas occasionally appeared in my social media feeds. Emma had managed to get into a decent state college, though not the prestigious universities she'd once aimed for. Lucas was working part-time at a local store, his dreams of professional soccer fading without the expensive training he'd taken for granted. Olivia had reached out one last time, through her lawyer. "She's willing to accept full responsibility," the lawyer said. "She admits she was wrong." "That's growth," I replied. "But it doesn't change anything. The divorce had been finalized months ago. The college funds remained in trust, ensuring the kids would have educational opportunities when they were ready to take them seriously. Beyond that, all ties were severed. I'd started dating again, cautiously. Sarah was a wildlife photographer I'd met through the sanctuary. She understood my passion for animals and had her own successful career. We took things slow, both of us knowing that real relationships are built on mutual respect, not dependency. The kids still sent occasional messages. Emma had finally realized she needed to study harder without my tutoring to fall back on. Lucas had discovered that minimum wage jobs weren't much fun. Their messages now carried a different tone, less demanding, more reflective. "I understand now," Emma wrote in her last email. "Why you left. I wouldn't have stayed either." It wasn't an apology, but it was an acknowledgement. Sometimes that's all you get, and sometimes that's enough. My new home, a ranch-style house with plenty of land, had become a haven for foster animals waiting for permanent homes. Every success story, every animal placed with a loving family, felt like validation of my decision to prioritize genuine connections over forced ones. Looking back, I realized that losing what I thought was my family actually led me to my true purpose. Those 5 years weren't wasted. They were lessons I needed to learn. About love, about respect, about the difference between being needed and being valued. The sanctuary's success had inspired others. 3 more facilities based on our model were opening across New England. Each one would help countless animals, creating ripples of positive change. Sometimes your biggest impact comes after your biggest disappointment. I don't hate them, Olivia, Emma, Lucas. I hope they learn from what happened. I hope they treat the next person in their lives better. But I no longer feel responsible for their growth or happiness. That was the final lesson. Letting go doesn't make you a bad person. Sometimes it makes you a wiser one.